It's not a secret that I am an FXD fan. This watch is fantastic. It's been with me everywhere. It travels with me. It's my workout watch. It is such a good companion. Like, that's all I can say. It's also still quite under the radar, even after almost 2 years. And looking at these new releases, it tells me that the Marine National FXD hasn't been as popular as Tudor thought. One side of the spectrum, I love the fact that this Pelagos is getting more exposure and the many attributes of the FXD are on display. But then on the other side, stepping back, it does come across looking a bit like a Frankenstein's monster, especially when you piece together all the parts that went into it. Now, being the critic and a die-hard enthusiast of the original FXD, I will comment on the dilution on the watch. I mean, if the FXD is a dilution of the Pelagos, then what are these pieces, I ask? Especially when you consider the original intent of the Pelagos FXD, designed for navigation, the graduations on the bezel, all of these features meant something with this watch. But anyway, we will get into that. So from a darker carbon composite case to debuting the first Pelagos chronograph, let's chat about this latest development of the Tudor FXD and how we could make its design that little bit more coherent. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that the Pelagos embodies Tudor's professional identity as a rugged tool watch built to tackle harsher environments, but also a brilliant test platform where the brand can be more daring when it comes to experimentation. Yes, I'm using the word daring, a part of Tudor's slogan. A change in size, proportions, materials. We've seen a drastic move away from the original helium escape valve variation with the 2 lines of text and the ETA-based movements. Now we are seeing something that's almost entirely different. It's a completely different watch. They have flatter, far slimmer profiles, some with sun-brushed finishes, others with fixed bars. Now, I will say this until the end of time, the FXD is such a proficient watch. It's flat, it's trim, it's so comfortable, light in weight, easy to wear. Because of this integrated fixed case, you have a real assurance that there will be no mechanical failures when using it. And it really makes for an ideal watch for the water, and we can see this relationship shared across platforms. You know, in the early days, Rolex testing their Yachtmaster titanium prototype with Ben Ainslie. Tudor then launching their MN FXD, incorporating fixed bars. And now in partnership with Alinghi RedBull Racing, another watch has arrived. The first impression says that it's just a reskinned Marine National FXD, and there are definitely parts that have been reused. We'll focus on a few design tweaks later in the video, and my criticism. 2 sizes. The time only remains at 42mm like the MN variant, and the brand new Pelagos chronograph is in 43mm. We can take away that some of the design inspiration did come from the AC-75 yacht, especially when we look at the case. They are now made from carbon, not titanium, which is quite a surprise, actually. I would have preferred seeing that it was a titanium case with a higher carbon content, which means that we can be quite unsure about the strength, the rigidity, the hardness of this composite, how much pressure it can take, is it shatterproof, is it scratch-proof, chip-proof, etc. One thing that it has going for it, since it's a fully integrated case with fixed bars, it is going to have a slight more rigid profile. But how these new cases marry with the fully graduated black bezel is just chef's kiss. Looks fantastic. Looking to the dials, we can see that there is some repurposing here. These have been borrowed from the MN variant. The same plots, the same hands, the same rehaut on the inside, save the engraving. And the only changes made, the red accents, the red Pelagos, red seconds hand, and of course for the chronograph there have been a few other changes. I must say that these red accents have been handled very well, especially for a seagoing watch. It looks nautical, ties in very nicely with RedBull's color palette. Now, as for the text on the rehaut, I don't believe it should be there. It's not necessary, but it also gets in the way, especially when we look to the chronograph. It doesn't interfere so much with the standard dive watch because you can count your minutes using the graduated bezel. But on the chronograph, especially when we look at the micro scale, there's 25 seconds worth of rehaut that's not being used anymore for the chronograph hand. I think this was just done to add more detail to the watch, but I don't believe it's needed there. The engraving on the case back is good enough. And then to the movements of these 2 pieces. In the standard time variant, I'm sure there has been an updated caliber, probably from the later Pelagos 39mm, a slight upgrade over the Marine Nationale. And the chronograph is now using the tried and true caliber from the Black Bay. And of course, most of us know it's actually a Breitling caliber. I feel that a lot of the inspiration borrowed for this Pelagos chronograph originally came from the Black Bay chronograph that was issued to the Tudor cycling team. You can see the red accents on the dial, the red highlight on the strap. But seeing these 2 together, they do pair very nicely. And there was a great balance of blue and black across the dial, the use of the strap, the red accent on the tongue. The fact that the chronograph uses pump pushers instead of screw downs, far more practical. And actually both of these watches do present as practical instruments, and that's what their core intent was in the first place. I feel that the arrangement and the balance across both pieces have been presented very well. Great understanding of proportions, of weight, of presence, how the text lines up so neatly, how the date window has been integrated into the chronograph, and that red is not the domineering color. It's used as an accent very sparingly. Okay, so with the praise out of the way, let's talk about dilution a little bit more. And the fact that these watches are very much building on where the FXD started, as a navigational instrument, as something that would be worn over the wetsuit as a skin diver. The fixed bars were designed for integrity, the extra knurling on the bezel for function and practicality. The bidirectional, fully graduated countdown bezel, these were all important features for the purpose of this watch. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the original Pelagos FXD had a purpose. It was designed to act in such a way, to perform in such a way. And all of these features that were added were done by necessity. They weren't slapped together. You know, they weren't just taken from a parts bin. This watch was rebuilt from the ground up. So as much as I like the inspiration and the RedBull collaboration, these pieces feel more like they were assembled instead of designed. More a mishmash of parts and colors instead of watches that have a vision. And as that pedantic purist, I will say that this does dilute the original Marine National FXD design in a lot of ways. You know, it feels more like they just slapped on a bit of red paint, moved on to the next watch. But adding to this, I have to ask the question, maybe no one else is asking, who are these watches marketed towards? Because the Marine National, it's got an amazing history. These watches were issued to members of the French forces. And there is decades of history backing up why the Tudor Snowflake design is such an efficient dive watch. I guess as an aspiring yachtsman, this watch could work for you, but it's nowhere near as impactful as one of the most famous military dive watches in the world. Will these be as timeless in design as the Marine National variants? I don't believe so. There is a slight lack in harmony between some of these parts, and these elements, some do come across looking disjointed. Not saying that these won't make for fantastic summer getaway watches though. I mean, they look brilliant. And if you're a RedBull racing fan, this is a really cool collaboration. My take on the quick redesign, what I would have liked to have seen that I think would have given these watches a little bit more permanence, is to simply give them a fully black dial instead of a blue dial. Keep the excellent navy blue one-piece nylon strap, keep the red elements, married with the fully graduated black bezel and the carbon composite case. I say this because looking at these watches as a whole, with the inclusion of a navy blue strap on a fully black watch, you can see how well the colors work better separately. And the added bonus, when it comes time to changing straps, you don't have to worry so much about what color you choose. With a blue dial and a black bezel, things get a little bit more complicated. As someone who loves the FXD, who loved learning about the development story of the original Marine National watch and everything that it entailed, seeing this design diluted and reused as a yachting watch all of a sudden does leave me a bit flat, I'll be honest. But if you're interested in these watches, that shouldn't deter you. Like I said in the very beginning, the FXD has become such a great companion for me, and I can't imagine my collection without one. These are rugged, they're legible, they have some of the best lume in the industry, and they never feel out of place. And that's ultimately what makes them so effective. And seeing this use of a fully graduated black ceramic bezel, we just know that an extremely stealth black dial snowflake model is on the cards very soon. And that is something we can all look forward to seeing.